That is different by design. The Studi is a beauty that is utterly, neatly, superbly, completely different by design.
Kyle here again at the Studebaker National Museum, joining you from our small collections facility. So I have a few items I pulled out to share today from our sort of brewery collection. Now it surprises a lot of people, knowing that we're the Studebaker National Museum, that we have items, from a brewery. And these are all part of sort of legacy collections that we maintain here, including some other South Bend industries like Drewry's Brewery. And we also have some items from Cam's and Hoosier Beer and other local breweries. So a few items here. Now, if you're familiar with breweries at all, you may know the name goes all the way back to the late, really 1870s. A gentleman named Edward Drewry's in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada, founded this brewery, and it became, I think, one of Western Canada's more popular breweries kind of into the 20th century. Now, eventually, a gentleman named George Black bought the company. He wanted to expand operations into the U.S. sort of after Prohibition. And he eventually abandoned the idea of sort of starting his own Drewry's Brewery here in the U.S., but they did contract with the Sterling Brewing Company of Evansville, Indiana, to make Drewry's beer. And so they did that for a time, and then some American investors in 1936 bought the company and started brewing beer here out of the old Musil Brewery in South Bend as the Drewry's beer brand. And it became one of the more popular beers, brands here in the area, leading from the 40s into the 50s and 60s. Really, in the 1950s, they were brewing 1,300,000 barrels of beer a year. So not quite at the maybe Anheuser-Busch level, but that's a lot of beer. And so, again, it was a large employer in the area. Several hundred people worked at 4 Drewry's. I'm assuming enjoyed Drewry's on their off time, right? And so eventually, they did shut the plant down, or move production, back to Evansville for a little while until 1972, after a couple of owners had bought it, tried to kind of keep it going, and they eventually closed for good in the early 70s. And so, again, these are all kind of iconic Drewry's products. Even when they were moved to the U.S., they still sort of maintained that Canadian sort of iconography, right? So we have the Canadian Mountie on a lot of their packaging. But we do have everything from signs, right? Light up signs, to metal signs, to beer cans. This is actually a bank. To coasters, even, sort of commercial marketing advertising pieces, like pins and this tiny little wooden beer bottle. So quite the collection of different items from Drewry's, again, showcasing sort of that history here in South Bend. I'm sure for the avid collector, there are some other Drewry's things out there if you like sort of beer brewery culture. But great part of our collection. I'm happy to share more of these items in a future video, but thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you down the road.